First up this week, we'll talk about some of the games that went on. And the first game we're looking at is notable not because of the drama and not because of the excellent hockey that it might have provided. And by the way, it didn't. It wasn't because of any remarkable individual performance, but rather because of a prolonged, ugly, major brawl in the first period of the game. Now, the contest itself was won by Boston in a cakewalk as they thrashed the Montreal Canadiens by a 6-1 score. But very few people were discussing the game, the hockey at least, or the score. It was a brawl near the end of the first period, with Boston already leading in the game by a score of 3-1 that dominated the conversation. We're not going to go into a blow-by-blow account of this mess. We'll rather just give you some audio of how everything unfolded and how it progressed. It's Boston announcers, I think it's Fred Cusick and Johnny Pearson, and they described it pretty well on how things started and some of the stuff that just went on and on and on. Here's the audio from that major brawl in Boston.
40 seconds left in the period. Here's Beliveau, out to Tremblay. Across to LaPointe. Shot kicked out by Johnson. Redmond blocked by Dallas Smith. He's upended, and we've got a penalty coming up to Boston, Dallas Smith. It looked like tripping John right in the slot.
Well, I'll tell you, the Bruins no sooner get one man out of the penalty box than one goes in, and there's Hodge going at LaRose here at center ice. They're both dropping their gloves. The linesman stepping in the way right here. Right below us, Mahavlich comes off the bench for Canadians, and that'll draw a little fire, as we have more than the required amount of players on the ice from both teams. Now here's LaPointe and Cashman going at it at center, and Cashman can really throw them. They're both going at it toe-to-toe. Oh, and LaPointe caught Cashman a good right hand. And there's Sanderson now getting involved in there, and they're all coming off. Both benches are emptying. Even Cheevers is coming on. And we're going to have a Donnybrook right down below us here as both benches emptied.
And Kenny and John Forrestal clearing the entire bench of gloves and sticks. Ori and Lemire down below us. Trying to figure out who's paired off with who is rather difficult. Cashman, a bad gash on the right eye. And now another one breaks out. Right at center ice, it looks like from here, Ken Hodge. And Vachon piles on. Johnston joins in. Tremblay and Dallas Smith. Harper is involved. Hodge is in there.
Cashman's got a very bad gash over his right eye, but he wants to get involved in somebody here.
A good left hand by Cashman. He's taking on two men. LaRose and McKenzie right down below us. I think it was Vachon that Cashman really clocked. And now Sanderson on the Montreal bench area as the Boston police step in. Fans getting involved. The player, I believe, is Phil Roberto. Sanderson being held by two Boston policemen. Right down below us at the Montreal bench area. There's Derek Sanderson right there. I think we ought to call in Don Dumping, John.
Well, I don't know, Don. I think that naturally very unnecessary, certainly well out of hand, and you could see the feelings were running very high through this whole first period. Lots of body checking. There was a lot of stick work going on, slashing people's feet, and very unnecessary. I don't know if you could say, Ashley, let the game get out of hand. Most of the Canadians, and he's trying to break it up, but he's getting some rough treatment down there. And they're finally getting the players back on the ice. But I don't know how Ashley's ever going to make head or tail of this thing, because I'm as confused as anybody about Hodge started it really down there and at center ice. But we've got a problem now. The Boston police are around the Canadian bench. That's where the activity has centered over the last 5 or 6 minutes. And Roberto is pointing to somebody about something that happened while he was in the crowd fighting with Sanderson. Somebody from behind must have taken a swing at Roberto. But he and Sanderson, and Don, I don't understand how Sanderson got over onto the Canadian bench to start with.
Well, this I can't figure out either, John, but when all of a sudden the ruckus started, there he was, right on the bench.
But it sure broke up the fights between the players in a hurry with that action going on behind the Canadians' bench with the Boston police involved in it. And now all the players are milling around. And it'll be some time now before this is straightened away. But if I were John Ashley, I think I'd suspend the 27 seconds left to play in this period and send the teams to their dressing rooms and start the 27 seconds at the start of the second period. I think that would probably be the smartest thing here. I think that we need a cooling off period, definitely. And right now is as good a time as any as far as I can see.
Yeah, it was quite a mess. It dominated the airwaves, at least as far as hockey was concerned, over the next week. As far as the game went, the Bruins goals were scored by Johnny Busick, Ed Westfall, Ken Hodge, Dallas Smith, Phil Esposito, and Derek Sanderson, while Mickey Redmond was the only Montreal player able to get one by Bruins goalie Eddie Johnson, who, by the way, was a very active participant in the Donnybrook. Now, to add insult to injury for an embarrassing loss and the mess that was that brawl, after the game, thieves broke into the Canadiens' dressing room at Boston Garden and stole nearly $400 worth of equipment. Police said that the culprits broke into the medical room at the Garden, through the ceiling, and then gained access to the Montreal quarters. There was no summary given of exactly what items belonging to the Canadiens were taken.